What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel, alongside with me, as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how are you doing, my man?
I am thrilled to be here to talk some Steeler football. It's the All-Star break in baseball, and uh, I know that all of us football lovers need a place to come together and talk some Steeler ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's usually this is called the dead time, as you mentioned, and there's usually not very much news. And if you're getting some news, it's not very good news. And for the Cleveland Browns, they've got some news. Apparently, their running back that they drafted, Judkins, was arrested for I guess family violence, some sort of domestic dispute.
Violence. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't seem like he's probably not going to be ready to go. Pretty crazy situation. What do you think about the situation?
Well, it seems like the incident happened 5 days before it was reported. And, so you don't know if it was this is a reaction to maybe, some kind of eternal squabble, or they're breaking up, or, and so I always try to reserve judgment to hear more of the whole story. But, it's the last thing the Browns need. I mean, I didn't hear anything about Judkins' character issues coming out of the draft. Mm-hmm. And if Steelers would have picked him, I'd have been fine with that, because he's a very talented young player. So I'll kind of reserve any judgment until I hear more.
Yeah, myself as well. It's a weird situation, and for the team like the Browns, who have had so many question marks in a bunch of different positions, their quarterback is probably going to be out for the year. So we'll probably see either Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco, two guys that or maybe even Deion Sanders' son. He's got a possibility to go there. And I think they even drafted a guy high in like the third round or something like that, Gabriel maybe. So there's a lot of question marks on the Cleveland Browns team. And this just adds to the dysfunction, I guess you can say. Outside of that news, I know there was a receiver, Garrett Wilson. He ended up signing a big extension. Not very much news across the board, but what do you think about that? They gave him an extension. The Jets did. They got rid of Rodgers. I guess they think they knew what the problem was.
Well, the only thing is I mean, he looks like a very talented young receiver.
Yeah.
But what the magnitude, $31 million a year, extension over 4 years, so over 120 million, but 90 million guaranteed. You just sit back, you're like, oh man. And again, they're another team like the Steelers that really don't have a franchise quarterback. They're hoping Justin Fields can, show something. It's just an awful lot of money. I don't know. I think sometimes teams put the cart before the horse. I know that the Steelers signed Metcalf and traded for him and then give him the money. He got bank. So both young receivers might be in the same boat. In that, they might have to go with an unproven quarterback for a while, especially like if Rodgers don't pan out.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. It's just kind of talks about the money that's being spent. When I look at a guy like TJ Watt, who hasn't gotten his paycheck, I just think that the longer the Steelers hold off on doing that, the more expensive that's going to be. And it just kind of seems like that with every position that is coming out. I'm glad that the Steelers ended up doing the extension with DK Metcalf earlier in the year. And as soon as the trading and everything else was good to go, because, they could have been paying him a lot more. Now, other news, and this, this kind of does reflect the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juan Jennings is reportedly from the 49ers reportedly is going to officially ask for a trade. And that sparked up rumors. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers have been rumored to be trade partners going back to last year, and with the whole Brandon Ayuk thing. How do you feel now? Now he's asking for a trade, so it does seem like he's interested in leaving the 49ers. I don't know what kind of financial situation he has there, but how would you feel about the Steelers acquiring Jennings?
Well, it's funny. Before, while they were pursuing Brandon Hook and kind of talking a little bit about Debo Samuel during that time,
Mhm.
I wrote an article that the guy I wanted was John Jennings. Because if you remember, he was coming off the Super Bowl where he threw a touchdown against the Chiefs and he caught one.
Mhm.
And he really showed up and showed out in the Super Bowl. And he's a tall receiver. He works very hard, being a 7th-round draft pick. And he blocks great. One of the reasons why their running game's so successful is what a good blocker he is on the outside. And I thought he'd be perfect for Arthur Smith's offense. And then, of course, uh, uh, if that was to come about. But we got to remember the key word is he wants a new contract because he's making $7.5 million, and he almost hit 1,000 yards last year. So based on the criteria, he's underpaid.
Mhm.
Now I've seen that his projection is 2 years, $20 million, but some people are saying he wants a little more than $10 million a year, which based on what his production was, I could see that. But again, I don't want another repeat of the last time they tried to get a 49ers wide receiver and they were just being used for leverage. And I
Yeah.
can see Jennings being a good fit, but I think he would probably prefer to stay in San Francisco. And I'm afraid he would try to use the Steelers for leverage again to get the deal he wants. So I wouldn't get too excited about it.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't either. In fact, there was another article that was just released on Niners Wire talking about Juszczyk, their fullback. He visited the
Yes, yes.
Steelers. He was actually offered a contract and he took that and basically leveraged it with the 49ers
Yep.
to go back. So
Yep.
it sounds like a game plan. Maybe some of these agents there in San Francisco or that are representing some of these San Francisco players are all coming up with the same answers here. Hey, let's use Pittsburgh. We'll get an idea of what we're worth and we'll bring it back home. And so yeah, I wouldn't get too excited. I think when it comes down to the Steelers, they have some draft picks, they have some capital that they could use. They have money that they can go out there and grab somebody that's on the open market. To me, this all kind of just equals out to they're going to wait until the end of preseason and see who gets cut. There's going to be some receivers that get cut, that get released, that can make a name for themselves on another team. And so I think that's what I'm expecting. That's where I'm
Yep.
at on this.
Yep.
I'm not going to get any hopes up unless something actually happens until that time.
Yeah, I agree totally. I'll just wait and see. If a team like a lot of teams when especially when training camp gets going, they're
Yeah.
gonna be like, okay, this guy might not make the team, so we'll look to try to trade him. They
Mhm.
might approach the Steelers, which if that was to happen, you're going to get a better deal. So right now, I think Khan, unless somebody approaches him, just sit back and, as you say, wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why they're giving these low ball offers to other
Yeah,
teams is
yeah,
because they probably have it in their mind that there's going to be a few wide receivers that there's going to be some teams that are just too deep. The 49ers are one team. The Green Bay Packers are another team that have
yes,
been talked about in that manner. So looking forward to it. I think I think that when it does happen, if it happens, I'm not putting it out there that it will after last year. There's a good possibility it does not happen. So I'm going to say if it happens, I'm anticipating that move to happen around week 1 of the regular season.
yeah, or the I don't know. You don't call it a bye week, but you have your last preseason game, and then you have an open week, and then week 1, and
Yeah.
it could be anywhere right in there. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And so with that out of the way, let's get into today's conversation, into the topic. So the title of the show is it Steelers improved, status quo, or a step back? Um, So we're basically going to break down the positions on both sides of the ball and see if, the Steelers have improved or they're the same or if they've gotten worse. Do you want to start on offense or defense there, Shannon?
Whichever I'm okay. I'm ready for either one.
All righty. So we'll start off offensively, and we'll start off with the wide receiver room. Right now, the wide receiver room is DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson. Those are the guys that you're expecting to see more often. Last season, you had George Pickens. You had, oh gosh, what was his name? Allen Robinson.
Robertson, yeah, not Jefferson. Robertson.
Yes. And then you also had sometimes Mike Williams. Calvin Austin was there as well. When it comes to the wide receiver room, kind of feels the same to me. You got a big name, you have an older guy, and you have a speedster there, and you're kind of hoping maybe Roman Wilson comes up as number 2, or can show himself up there. But you got a hole there at wide receiver too. So I'm kind of saying it's a little bit even. Where do you? I mean, I will say that DK Metcalf, in my opinion, is a I don't want to say a better talent-wise receiver than George Pickens, but you can expect better out of him, play in and play out, in my opinion. But where do you fall here?
Well, I'm going to say that they're improved, and what I mean by that is, I think Metcalf is a better receiver. He's a more proven receiver. He gives a consistent effort, as you mentioned. He gives a much better effort, play in and play out. And the guy wants to win. I mean, but not just win the game. He wants to win each rep. He doesn't take reps off, and he's a physical freak. I mean, I still see the picture of him and AJ Brown that's always circulating on Instagram or the internet, and the guy is a freak of nature. He is going to, if he has a competent quarterback, he can get him the ball on time and quickly, which I'm hoping that's the least of what Rodgers can bring to this offense. I expect him to have a big year. I think that Woods is an upgrade. They got Robertson. I mean, you're talking about the end of his usefulness. And Woods, I think, still can be a third down guy. He still can block. He's not what he once was, but I think he's still a step up. I think Calvin Austin is only more comfortable in the offense. He has another year of development. He has a quarterback that maybe can hit him in stride to get him in the open field, something that he has not had in the past. And then Roman Wilson actually will get to play this year, good Lord willing. And I think Roman Wilson is an NFL talent. Now, what he offers this year, we don't know yet. But I do think that just having him is a big step up, let's say, for Mike Williams, who was definitely a one-trick pony. He always has been. And I was not really enthusiastic when they signed Williams, and he really didn't do much. So I think Roman Williams is a step up. So I'm going to say slightly improved.
Slightly improved. Yeah, I'm with you there that they're slightly improved. I'm leaning more towards the status quo, just mainly because there's a big hole there at wide receiver too. We're looking at every time somebody comes up, and it's not just the fans that are looking at it. Apparently there's some smoke to the fire where the Steelers have contacted certain teams, but they're throwing low blow offers or whatever low offers there. Is they're still offering something. They're still trying to get somebody. And, I expect them to get another person, but if they don't come week 1, I'm kind of feeling like they're somewhat the same now, where they've kind of gotten an advantage, in my opinion, is in the tight end room. They've brought in a guy like Jonnu Smith, who's a Pro Bowler, who's a pass catcher. He can be a wide receiver 2-ish, out there. So can Pat Freiermuth. And you expect these guys to be that in this offense. You expect the tight ends to be a huge component. That's what Arthur Smith has shown in his past outside of last year, but I think that was due to the quarterback situation. So I strongly believe that the tight end room has been improved. You have now Pat Fryermuth, Johnny Smith, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward. You're basically dropping down Darnell Washington a step back, and versus last year bringing him up one step and then having Michael Pruitt there. I think it's been quite a bit improved. What do you think about the tight end room?
Yeah, that's why I think that the Steelers feel comfortable making some low ball offers for a wide receiver too. I think that's why they feel comfortable waiting to, as we said, to maybe cut downs and getting a potential wide receiver too at a very cheap price because of how deep they are at tight end now. I mean, as you say, you've got a Pro Bowl tight end with Johnny Smith. Fryermuth has just been waiting. He's not had the same success after Ben. And, I think with Rodgers, you're going to have a guy that, again, can he just facilitate? Can he get the ball out on time, accurately, especially in the middle of the field? And I think Fryermuth can flourish, barring any health issues. And now Darnell Washington is even more fit. He's running better routes. He's a matchup nightmare, especially for a quarterback who knows how to use a bigger tight end, which Rodgers has proven through the years because he's had some bigger tight ends, notably Mercedes Lewis. So, yeah, I think the tight end position is definitely took a step up. And so it's, I would say, dramatically improved. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Smith and a little bit of Pat Fryermuth will be able to help, relieve some of that pressure of not having your prototypical wide receiver too. Because Johnny Smith can run a lot of those routes that the wide receiver too does in Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with him. I agree with you 100%. I think that's what a lot of people were expecting last year. And unfortunately, it just wasn't something that materialized. Maybe this year with, more firepower in the tight end room and a quarterback that's capable of seeing the middle of the field and getting the ball there, could create a much more an offense that we were expecting to see. Now,
a quarterback that is very mobile, like Justin Fields. A lot of times they do not get the ball out on time because they're always questions, second guess. It affects their development on reading the play, making read 1, 2, and 3, progressing through. It delays that for a lot of them because they want to move, and extend the play and then make the big play. But sometimes you just got to make the play that is there. And then you have Russell Wilson, who did not want to throw across the middle, maybe because of the height, vision issues. Don't want to turn the ball over because he's being instructed not to put the ball up for grabs. And his most effective throws were deep down the field. So, again, that goes back to what Rodgers hopefully can still bring in that timing, the pre-snap reads, and going to the quick open play. Sometimes it might be the easiest, but it's also the most efficient play. And let's just make the play move the sticks. And that's what we're hoping that a veteran can do for this 1 year all-in rental.
Yeah. And for sure. And we'll have I have a lot more to say about Aaron Rodgers and what he's going to bring to the table when we get to the quarterback position. But yeah, I think he's going to make the biggest difference. Next, let's talk about the offensive line. Now, we'll start off with the interior: Sayamalu, Frazier, McCormick. I mean, I think we can all agree that we should expect some sort of improvement. Sayamalu had a pec injury early on last year that I think really lingered throughout the entire year, and it was obvious, in his play was a little bit dropped back, took a step back, mainly because, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but in my opinion, I think it had something to do with the pec. With Frazier and McCormick, these are guys that were rookies. They had a long year last year, virtually no offseason. And now they come back, year under their belt, getting to go into a offseason and also a training camp, OTAs, a mini camp, knowing that these are the guys, these are the starters. Last year, they didn't have that luxury. Last year, It was a question mark. They had to earn it, those type of things. This year, now they can focus in on these guys, build that camaraderie. And so I expect them to be improved, just because they have another year and Samuel is healthy. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. Frazier had a phenomenal rookie year, in my opinion.
Mhm.
He even exceeded my expectations. Uh, I wasn't expecting McCormick to be forced to start that quickly at all, but he was, and I think he really uh, playing. I don't want to say out of position, but in a style, the outside zone that really wasn't his forte. But he come to camp, well, the OTAs and the mini camp. You see, he's more fit. He worked on his footwork. He's more fluid. I mean, he'll never be one of the elite athletes at the position, but I think he can definitely move well enough to play this zone, outside zone. And he's stronger. And as you say, Samalu, we got to remember he had a big upgrade at center in Frazier,
Mhm.
but he had the worst left tackle, in my opinion. One of the worst in the NFL, who started every game, and Dan Moore Jr. And he was constantly trying to cover for Dan Moore's deficiencies. And teams were sending two guys from that side. And Samalu spent a lot of time trying to cover, you got to have that working relationship with your left tackle. And I just throw the injury in, as you mentioned, I think it definitely affected Samalu. And he was not the same player as he had been. And I'm expecting a bounce back season. And I love the depth. The Steelers have some depth now.
Mhm.
And behind those guys, McCollum really impressed me when he had to start for Frazier last year.
Mhm.
And I know he can play some guard, but I think he's a center. But I love having him as the backup center. Because if Frazier wants to go down for a little while, I think McCollum could definitely carry his weight. And
Yeah.
so I think the interior with Spencer Anderson, and there's a couple other guys that I think can offer them some solid depth. So yeah, I'm expecting improvement in that interior for sure.
Yeah, I am too. I expected to, just the chemistry, them knowing they're going into training camp as a starters and are preparing as such. I mean, I know they're preparing like that regardless of there's somebody in front of them or not. But when the offense is structured around these guys and what their strengths are and what they do better and the type of running plays and blocking plays and stuff like that. So I just feel that they're going to be a step above than what they were last year. Now the question mark is going to be on the outside, right? You have last year, which we kind of heard your opinions on Dan Moore, but you had the combination of Dan Moore and Broderick Jones. Now it's Broderick Jones on the left side and Troy Fautanu. Where do you? I'll go with you first, and then I'll answer this. What do you think about the duo?
Well, I'm very excited about answering this, but I'm also very excited. I cannot bring it up on the screen because now with our new situation, I'm considered a guest. But it looks like it's Kathy's birthday.
I see that.
Yes. And I definitely want to tell Kathy happy birthday.
Yes, yes. Happy birthday, Kathy.
Yes, because we love Kathy. And they're some of my absolute favorite people. And so is it actually her birthday?
It looks like it. It looks like
Yes.
it.
Everybody who's birthday, but we can sing it together, Daniel.
Oh gosh, I'm not saying
Come on, we can do it. Happy birthday
birthday.
to
With this to
you.
you.
Happy birthday to
To you.
you. Happy birthday, dear Kathy.
There you go.
Happy birthday
To
to
you.
you.
There you go.
And
There
many,
you go.
many more. And that's right from my heart.
Yes, I was backup. I wasn't doing them all. I was just doing the backup.
but I had to do that. But no, I wanted to say I'm so excited about Fautanu. I mean, there was talk that he was the Steelers' best lineman as a rookie at camp, and then the injury and everything. And knowing how good Frazier is, that excites me about Fautanu. And I do think that we're going to see a different Broderick Jones. Any of us in any profession, anything we've ever done, if you're not where you feel most efficient or most comfortable, it's there's going to be some struggles. And I just think that it was just asking a lot of him, and he never got his mind wrapped. He never fully committed to the right side. So now's his chance to prove it. You're on that left side. It's what you was drafted for. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. I think he's ready to take over. And Fautanu is with them sweet feet, he's going to lock down that right side, I have no doubt. So I'm expecting big improvement from the tackles.
I do too. I think that last season, when you look at Broderick Jones's tape, the one thing that I think one thing that kind of made him kind of highlight a bad reel for him was he didn't really finish the blocks. Like he would have a good first step, good first punch, and then it was kind of like boom, boom, boom. I want to watch the play, and
he seemed confused.
Yeah, there was. He was
you said when he thought his part was done, or instead of looking for somebody else to block, somebody coming down the line, cut back, and take somebody out. Like you said, he'd stand there and watch the play.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something that I expect Coach Meyer to work with and say, okay, you're over here now. You go ahead to do it. Cut off the backside, cut off any penetration because it could be a cutback.
Yeah.
You can't stand to watch the play.
Right, exactly. And he did this also on passing downs. And I think Russell Wilson ended up taking almost 37, 38 sacks, something like that. But a lot of them were kind of on Russell Wilson not getting rid of the ball. And with Aaron Rodgers, he gets rid of the ball. And so, to a certain extent, this would be an assist to Broderick Jones because he's so good at his first hit and he's so good about putting himself in position that by that time that he needs to, continue, there's a good chance the ball's out of the quarterback's hand.
Yep.
Now you want him to finish the play by all means. You want him to finish the play. You want him to finish the block. And I sincerely hope they work with him on that. But I think that's going to help him out. He lost like 20 pounds, he said. So that's going to help him with his feet moving back and forth. Same thing with Fautanu. He's a guy that's very agile and moving around. And that's something that the Steelers have liked in their offensive linemen for a long time. You can go back to Dermontti Dawson or Alan Faneca or any of these guys that like to just pull and get out in front of the running back. And you have to be able to move. They tried doing that with Kendrick Green and some of these other guys, and they had some slower guys in between, a few years back, and there was a lot of penalties. There was a lot of penalties for illegal man downfield because they were trying to get out there faster than they because of their speed, they had to get out there quicker than they should have. And so because of those things, I strongly suspect that this offensive line is going to be better. I think that Aaron Rodgers, like I mentioned, gets rid of the ball quicker. So that's going to improve that. They don't have to worry about having to hold on to a block for almost 4 seconds while Russell Wilson is trying to decide who he wants to throw the ball to. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's all going to help him.
And also, we want to say happy birthday to Daredevil.
Oh, really? Happy birthday, Jared.
We got a couple of birthdays today. So, so yes, definitely happy birthday.
Yes. And so next position is going to be the running back position. And it's formerly Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Now it's Caleb Johnson, Jaylen Warren. And we're going to see Kenneth Gainwell quite a bit, in my opinion. Yes. So now you have these 3 running backs versus what we saw last year with mainly just 2. I see improvement. What do you see?
Oh, yes. Again, like when you talk about where I'm expecting the most improvement, tight end, offensive line, running back. Running back, Najee Harris was a terrible fit. Listen, I'm not saying he's a terrible player. I'm saying that they did not have the offensive line, and they drafted him, a guy with no burst and no vision. So he drugged guys for 3 yards that rookie year. He was just great effort, and I admire him for that. but he's never going to be a big play guy because he doesn't have burst. And if he has to run lateral or he has to stop, the play's over because he can't accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
And he's terrible fit for outside zone. And that's the type of offensive line coach you bring in, and that's the type of offensive coordinator you have. And I think it's some people's mind, they still don't understand. They think he's Derrick Henry Jr. But Derrick Henry has another gear. And if you let him get into the secondary, you see that other gear. Harris has one speed. So it's actually addition by subtraction. Now, any big plays we've seen in the running back position, it's been out of Warren. But now you have Caleb Johnson, who has a extra gear. Maybe that first few steps, that's why he's 40 times, But once he gets up to speed, just like Derrick Henry, Johnson can turn it on. So I think we're going to see a lot of Gainwell. I don't think people realize he got a lot of play, even with behind Saquon Barkley last year. I mean, and Barkley was arguably, wasn't the best running back. He was the second best running back last year, him and Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And Gainwell still got some play because Gainwell is versatile. So I think you're going to see all three guys. And I hope by the end of the year, somebody took over as that starter, that they feel like, hey, we got the guy, the pecking order has been established, whether it's Warren or whether it's Johnson. And then the other guys can get their reps, keep everybody fresh. I think it's a great situation to have a three-headed monster right now in that running back backfield.
I do too, and I think with Caleb Johnson, he talked on, I guess, an interview, I think it was with Missy Matthews, about his running style. He talked about how he kind of looked at Derrick Henry and his running style because he's a taller back, similar to him. And although he's not as thick as Derrick Henry, he is a big running back. And he can move, and he has that extra step, as you mentioned. So I'm excited to see what the Steelers can do with him. And finally, on the offense, the big position, the one that everybody's been waiting to hear, the quarterback position. This year, you have Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, Will Howard as the third guy, but he's possibly not going to see the field. He shouldn't. And then you have last year, it was basically Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Where do you sit on the improvement, or is it the same, or is it a step back?
Well, last year, for what the Steelers had invested in the quarterback position, I was fine with it. I thought Justin Fields could, maybe turn his career around, live up to his incredible athleticism and talent. I don't know if they really give him the fairest chance. He wasn't surrounded by the most talent. Wide receiver position was weak. Running backs didn't fit the system. I mean, it wasn't the perfect situation. And I didn't want Russell Wilson. I was very vocal about that. Now, Kyle Allen was a good emergency number 3, but you didn't, we only seen him for maybe 2 passes. So I think this year is potentially a huge upgrade. And the reason being is that all 3 quarterbacks can fit in the same system. You do not have to tweak it from one quarterback to the next because they all play a similar style. Now, we know Will Howard's younger and more athletic than the other 2, but we're not seeing him unless there's a disaster. So I want to see a lot of him in the preseason to get a feel for what his game will look like at the NFL level. I have a lot of faith in Mason Rudolph. At one point, I was tired with the Rodgers drama, and I was fine with going in with Mason Rudolph and picking somebody else up. Because Rudolph, I think, is at the point that he can be a game manager, hit the big play because he throws a beautiful deep ball, and do the things I said. We need somebody who facilitates, get the ball out on time and accurately. And we see what he did at the end of his first tenure with the Steelers during that magical run by doing just that. It wasn't anything spectacular. It was just the fundamentals that the other guys couldn't do. And so we're really down to Aaron Rodgers. And can he be a game manager? Is he willing to be a game manager that can make a big play at the end of a game to maybe win a game or two? Because, that's what separates those quarterbacks. You can be a game manager as long as you're winning, but what if you get behind by 2 touchdowns? And you have to open it up and throw it 40 times that game. I think Rodgers can still do that, but we'll see. But based on what I'm seeing and what I expect to happen, I think that is an improved area on this offense as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on all fronts there. To me, I think that the potential of Justin Fields is probably the ceiling is probably higher with Justin Fields amongst these quarterbacks. Now, is he going to get there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think his floor is a lot lower than some of the other quarterbacks, and I think that's what the combination of either Rodgers or Mason Rudolph would bring is probably more consistent play. You're going to be able to, you're going to know what your quarterback's going to be capable of doing and not capable of doing on a play in, play out basis. It's very consistent. And I think where the edge comes in is one with both of these guys is they're willing to stay in the pocket. They're not guys that are going to flee out of the pocket right away. So that helps out the offensive line because they know where the quarterback is going to be. They get rid of the ball. They target the middle of the field. And even Mason Rudolph, I mean, Darnell Washington had maybe 1 or 2 targets until Mason Rudolph became the quarterback and he started to target him and other players. And, maybe it was just a change of tendencies that was why he played so well. But, that kind of opened him up a little bit, in my opinion, because last year we ended up seeing Darnell utilized a little bit more in the passing game. Obviously, he wasn't a huge component, but he was utilized. So when I look at this position, I think to myself, yes, Aaron Rodgers, what are the downsides? He's older. He's 40, going to be 41 this year. Can he stay healthy through 17 games? Can the arm stay lively for 17 plus games, this year? And, those are the question marks. I think he gets rid of the ball faster. I know he took quite a few sacks last year, but he didn't get hurt after. I think he got hit like 40 times. I think he took 40 sacks, 41, something like that. So he was able to bounce back. That tells you a little bit about their offensive line there with the Jets because Rodgers was getting rid of the ball really fast, and yet he was still getting hit. So, I would expect him to be better with a better offensive line in front of him, and another year removed from the injury. I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's an improvement and a more consistent improvement where you're gonna be able to know it's gonna help out everybody on the offense, and because he's able to target the middle of the field and those type of things, I think it's gonna make this team or the offensive scheme less predictable, and thus I really do think that this is gonna push this offense in the right direction. Now, I don't think it's gonna be a 30-point offense per game, but
on occasion,
occasionally 30s, but averaging 25, 27.
Yeah.
I think is very doable.
Yeah, it's we talked when we was deciding what we were going to talk about tonight. I said, there's a lot of changes, and we don't know how these guys are going to gel, how they're going to play together. It's like all in for 1 year. But at least the Steelers are trying something different.
Yeah.
And I give Khan and the organization all the credit in the world for this. And I'm excited about it because I'm looking at all the potential positivities that could come out of this.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we're going to take our break real quick, guys. When we get back on the other side, we're going to talk about the defense. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website. Whoa, got a little violent there. Remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Make sure you go check it out. While you're there, you can check out all the audio-only podcasts where you'll find mine, State of the Steelers, that airs out on Saturdays. You won't be disappointed in it. Go check it out, guys. And so with that said, defensively, now there's been some changes on the defensive side. I think there's been probably more changes on the defensive side than any other side, than the offense. And so we'll start up front with the big guys. This year, we're looking at it's Derek Harmon, Keanu Benton as your nose tackle, Cam Hayward. You have some backups there as far as, Wyatt Black, Loudermilk this year, Dean Lowry this year. And last year, it was Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, Hayward, and Loudermilk and DeMarvin Leal until he got hurt. I strongly think there's a huge improvement here, but I want to hear what you say first.
And don't forget Logan Lee.
Logan Lee, yes. He'll be back.
I really like Logan Lee. I said when he was drafted, he needs a year. He needs a redshirt season, but you can't do it in the NFL. But they figure out ways. Yeah. And so I expect him to be in the mix. I think it's a huge upgrade. I think Harmon, and the fact that they're playing him right off, they're not slow rolling this thing. They're like, okay, you're starting. Go in there. Listen, he could give them everything Ogunjobi did and more. I mean, he was one of the best defensive linemen in college football at a Power 5 school, a playoff team. I mean, this kid has got it. He is very much like a young Cam Hayward, but I think he's more ready for the NFL as a rookie than Cam Hayward was. Because it took Cam a couple of years. I think Harmon's ready. I think Benton needs to take the step that I expected him to take last year. And hopefully this is the year we're surrounded by more talent. Hayward is the old dog. We know what we're getting. As long as he can stay healthy, the guy's one of the strongest guys in the NFL. And you can count on his production. But now you got Wyatt Black. I mean, this kid is a monster. And he gives you Calais Campbell vibes. He's just big and strong and hard to move. He took double and triple teams last year at Iowa. So he is going to be a handful and a problem for the AFC North and anybody else the Steelers play. I'm very excited about this defensive line because we've seen what happened back-to-back games against the Ravens. And this Steelers team, one thing about it, they're like, we're not getting pushed around like that again. And I think with the improvements they've had with the linebackers, which we'll get to later, along with the size and strength and talent on this defensive line, I think that is not going to be a problem anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, to me, that just the big names up front, the new guys, Derek Harmon, Wyatt Black, these guys I anticipate to have a huge role on defense, especially when they're playing some of these run-dominant offense. I expect them to be out there quite a bit. These are huge, huge individuals. And Cam Hayward's not a small guy either. No. He's a big guy as well. And so you now have a very stout defensive line. And what I'm hoping too is a more healthy defensive line. Larry Ogunjobi never practiced because he was always on the injury report.
Perpetually injured.
Yes, all the time. And so he's not even playing, I think, the first 6 weeks because he failed the drug test or something like that, the performance drugs or whatnot. So I expect to be a solid improvement. I expect it to be better than when it was when Larry was healthy, because last year when the Steelers fell off, it was at the end. They fell off at the end, but the first part of the year they were pretty decent at the running game. They weren't bad. It was just they fell off at the end. And this year, I think that with the young guys there and making Harmon the starter right away so that he can get comfortable in the position and work within the first group. And then bring in Wyatt Black, who's going to be limited snaps anyways. I mean, you don't have a nose tackle out there for majority of your plays. That's going to be for when you're playing some of these run-dominant teams. And so, he's going to know what his job is. It's not going to be hard. Stuff the middle of the offensive line and make sure nobody can run through there. So it's not like he's got a whole lot to learn there. Uh, it's about getting out there and just being a menace in the middle. So
I
I
think you also
be,
get some play time at the end
yeah,
because that's where they listed him at the moment. I think he's a nose tackle in the future, but
yeah.
I expect Benton to move out in Hayward's position when Hayward retires, and I think William Black is going to be in the middle. But one thing about it, with the way the NFL is now with RPOs and get the ball out quick, with his size, his length, and his wingspan, he's going to be tough to throw over or around.
Yeah.
So even if he don't get immediate pressure, he can collapse. But he's going to be hard to throw over.
Oh, I agree. Both of them. I mean, Wyatt Black
yeah,
is even taller. He's
yeah,
he's the biggest one. I think he's like 6'7", something like
yeah.
that. Just absolutely massive. I'm excited about what this defense is going to be able to do because I anticipate them to come into this season, looking like they did early on last year and when they were healthy and when they weren't
Yeah.
fatigued and tired. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to expect this defense, especially with the new additions, to be something similar to like what the defense was in 2019 with Minka freshly on board and the reason why the team was winning. But I anticipate the offense to hold their end of the bargain, unlike in some of these past years. I think they felt it. So, I'm anticipating a really good year for this team. Now let's transition to the outside linebackers. We have Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt on the outside. Behind them is Nick Herbig and Jack Sawyer. Last year it was same three up front, except Sawyer. It was Jeremiah Moon. I'm going to say that this is probably the same. I'm not anticipating a lot of playing time for Jack Sawyer, to be honest with you. As long as there's, the upfront guys are stay healthy. Obviously that can change with health being a situation. TJ Watt is another year older. He kind of had a down year at the end, but I think he's going to come back healthy and have a bounce back year. But I'm not expecting 20 sacks a year from him either. I think that might be behind him. Alex Highsmith, he's a guy also that, when healthy is a dominant force. And so he's kind of dealt with some, soft tissue stuff over the past couple of years. Hopefully he cannot, he don't have to deal with that this year, but overall, I'm expecting roughly the same performance wise. What do you think about the outside linebackers?
Another thing I was going to mention is the trainers. They've got some new trainers to hopefully help with the soft tissue stuff.
Yeah.
That maybe they tweak their workouts and stuff where this won't be such an issue because it really has been for the last few years. That being said, I think it's a slight upgrade again because I think Sawyer's going to play more than people think. I think he's going to be in the rotation because I think that if they give Watt the contract I expect, they're going to try to keep him as fresh as possible and severely limit his snap count. And what I mean by that is he'll still get his snaps, but they're going to space it to keep him fresh because he got gassed late in games. And they need him. That's when they need him fresh. And especially if they're playing with the lead, which I hope they'll finally be able to. I got to mention Alex Highsmith. Man, him and Pat Freiermuth stepped up, both of them, to run that camp after George Pickens bailed. And you got to give these guys credit. This is their vacation time, family time. And they both come in to fill in and make sure these young people don't get done dirty. And Alex Highsmith is right there with him helping. That says a lot. Listen, you've got Alex Highsmith is a really good player, but I think he's a better person. And then Herbig is he's a specialist. I don't know if he'll ever be, great at setting an edge, but that dude can pass rush. He's a disruptor. And I think Sawyer's the whole package, guys. I'll be honest. I think his leadership, his intensity, and being able to learn behind Watt and to learn the Stiller way from Highsmith, I expect him to be a contributor even as a rookie. And And then Jeremiah Moon is still around. He might make the team again. Excellent depth and special teams guy. So taking all that into account, I'd say a slight upgrade.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think they definitely have the opportunity to be better than they were last year. I think the biggest component of that is going to be health. If they can stay healthy,
always, yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely top of the league pass rushers, and so
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm just saying that last year when they were healthy, they're playing at an all-time level. I think they can get to that same level. It's kind of hard to improve when you're already at the top, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think maybe they have a little better depth.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what goes to. Let's go to the inside linebackers, and I think this is. You have some returning players, but I think this is going to be maybe your biggest improvement, or the one that's going to be seen off the screen or off the television. And the reason being is you have some big guys in front of them that are going to keep them clean. You're going to have some guys behind them that can lock down the receivers and allow them, middle linebackers to be the stars of the show, so to speak. And so I expect Patrick Queen another year with the green belt, the green dot. If he ends up having it still, I'm not sure if that's going to be the thing, but if he does, another year he'll be more comfortable with it. Another year in the defense, he should be better. Same thing for Peyton Wilson. They should be well, but even in the depth, Cole Holcomb and Malik Harrison behind them.
Yes.
I mean, this is probably the most improved. And I know people are going to look at the defensive backs, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this might be the most improved that we're going to see on that's going to pop off the screen for us. What do you think?
Everybody knows I love linebackers, and I love inside linebackers. I mean, I'm a Jack Lambert baby. I mean, that's I cut my teeth. That's what I grew up on. I would rip the green dot off of Patrick Queen's helmet. Take it off him, give it to Peyton Wilson. The guy's a leader. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's ready to step up and be the full-time starter. Let Patrick Queen seek and destroy. Turn him loose. Don't make him overthink. Just let him go hit people. Let him be aggressive. Don't make him hesitate. You got Cole Holcomb can wear the green dot. It's the backup, the rotational guy. Holcomb is great with the green dot. We remember before he missed all of last season. Mm-hmm. Holcomb is back, guys. I believe if he can stay healthy, he's back. He's beefier, bulkier, stronger, but he still looks like he's moving well. And as you say, they got Harrison, who's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He wants to really stick it to the Ravens, and him and Queen both want to. And so I love the depth. I love the intensity. I love what everybody's saying. They're saying the right things. And listening to them talk just gets me excited. So I am ready. So I think that's a big step up when you consider the depth they have at inside linebacker now.
Oh, yeah. The depth, the expectation of these players that are expected to be the starters to take another step forward with another year under their belt in the same defense with the same players around them. I mean, that is stuff you can't teach. You have to live and learn through it and get yourself better through that process. And they've done that. And I'm looking forward to this defense. I think this is going to be a solid defense. We can look at let's go with the safeties first, and then we'll talk about the cornerbacks. Safeties, we got Deshaun Elliott, Juan Thornhill. A little bit different names. A lot of people are probably a little bit down on this position given the fact that they no longer have Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think you lose something there as far as a leader with Minkah. You lose something there as far as the respect, maybe not the respect. I think these guys are going to command the respect from the team as well. But, it was always Minkah, TJ Watt, and Cam Hayward. Those were the guys on the defense. Those were the leaders of the defense. So you lose something by losing Minkah there. Now, production on the field, as far as splash plays go, they really haven't been there here as of recent with Minkah. And I think a lot of people would agree that the best safety last year was Deshaun Elliott. I'm going to say this is a step back, though, without Minkah Fitzpatrick out there. Until I see Juan Thornhill go out there and show that he can mesh with Deshaun Elliott, I'm going to say this is probably the only step back that I've said this entire time.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it earlier today. If I had to say, this would be the where they have taken a slight step back. And not so much production on the field, as you say, only one interception over the last 2 years for Minka. But Minka brings a lot more than just on the field.
Mhm.
And I have mad respect for Minka Fitzpatrick. I wish him well. And I respect everything he did in the Steeler uniform. But for what he was getting paid as a ball hawk, and he was something he was not allowed to do in this defense. So I think this is addition by subtraction, because we'll get to the corners here in a minute. But I think the Steelers can play a defense I've been wanting them to play, which is press man, for a while, to maximize their front seven, the potential and the effectiveness and productivity. And they were never going to be able to do that playing the conservative defense they were playing, and it greatly limited Minka Fitzpatrick. But last year, Elliott was arguably their best defensive player, based on the whole season, because Watt had his down, whether it was injury or whatever, towards the end of the year. So Elliott is a great strong safety. It would not shock me for the Steelers to bring in somebody. There's some real experienced guys available in free agency. So if the Steelers feel that Thornhill might not be the answer, they might bring in somebody. I like Castro. Wouldn't shock me at all if Castro don't start out on the practice squad, but he has potential down the line. So, but I agree. If there is anywhere that maybe they took a step back, it is at safety.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a step back, but when you look at and I heard one of the talking heads talk about this, and I had to agree. They said, what would you prefer to have, an elite safety or an elite corner group? And you obviously want to have the elite corner. And I think the Steelers, it's not a guarantee that they have elite corners. They got some guys that are a little bit older in Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay. You have Joey Porter Jr., who struggled a little bit last year, especially with penalties and things of that nature. He really hasn't given up a lot of touchdowns or anything like that, but he's kind of given up the penalty plays.
It's penalties, yeah.
And so, now you have Darius Slay, you have Jalen Ramsey. Both of these guys can work in the slot. I strongly suspect both of these guys can work as some safety work. So this is going to allow the defense to do some interesting things where they're going to show maybe perhaps Jalen Ramsey in the slot, but he could drop down as a safety and do a bunch of exotic type things to confuse the offense. And so to me, the cornerback room is an improvement. I will say this though, Dante Jackson at one point was leading the NFL in interceptions last year until he got hurt. His potential was pretty good. He was in an upward trajectory, but then the back injury came and it just kind of, his season kind of went downhill at the end. But with that said, even as, with a healthy Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr. on the outside, I think I still like this cornerback group more. What do you think?
Huge upgrade. Huge. For like I said earlier, it'll allow them to play. Hopefully it'll make Austin and Tomlin confident enough to play the press coverage they need to play. I think we're going to see Ramsey start out as a corner, but we're going to slowly see his transition to full-time safety in the future. He will be in the black and gold, he is a full-time safety in the near future after this year, I believe. I think Ramsey and Slay gives them this incredible creativity that you mentioned, that they can move these guys around, disguise coverages. They're instinctual players. They make pre-snap reads, and when they read it right, baby, usually it's a pick six. These guys are big play guys. They're veterans. They know the game. They can help Porter, fine-tune his craft where he won't get so many penalties. I see just a huge upgrade there. I even see where that Ramsey has been used as a Lamar Jackson shadow at times in his career. And, there's a guy that you can have kind of spy on Jackson at times, especially if you're playing him creatively, the middle of the field, maybe a pseudo safety.
Mhm.
I just see so many things that they can do with him that it made it worth it. Even though we're going to miss Fitzpatrick, it made it worth it because of what he can bring and uniting with Slay and Porter. And I like the depth they have. I think that Beanie is going to take it. Beanie Bishop's going to take a step forward. And like I said, I've already mentioned a couple of the safeties. I think they've got guys that are chess pieces that they can maneuver around, and we also got to remember Slay's physical and Ramsey's one of the more physical corners
Mhm.
in the against the run. He is a good tackler, and he sticks his head in there. Dante Jackson did not like to tackle, and he's another guy who's perpetually injured. He's had chances to have big years before, and he always gets hurt. So I think Ramsey's a huge upgrade.
Oh yeah, I think they definitely are. This is definitely going to be a. I think this is definitely going to help that front seven as well to allow them to do some things, um, disguise wise as well, and creative to apply pressure. Pressure and coverage go hand in hand, and I think at this point they have a really good mix of the two. You have some guys that can cover. You got some guys that have some ball skills that can catch the ball in the air. These
Yeah.
guys are they're a threat. This isn't not to say anything negative about Ike Taylor, but it's not Ike Taylor out there.
Hands
You
of
know what I'm
stone,
saying?
yes.
Yeah. So and Ike Taylor, I mean, if he had better hands, he'd be listed up there with the top of them.
Oh yes, yes he would.
And so I think this is what you have here. You have the risk of these guys making a play, and even when they're like there was a play there with Jalen Ramsey where the ball got tipped up off the wide receiver. That becomes a dangerous play also. Like if the receivers on the opposite team aren't catching the ball or they let something slip like that, these are the guys that can snatch it out of the air too. And so I'm really excited about this team. Overall, I guess when you look at it, I don't really see. I mean, we looked at the safety position as a step back. I looked at the outside linebacker position as possibly, somewhat similar to what they were last year when healthy. Um, but outside of that, I think it's major improvement across the board. And so I think we're going to see that translate onto the season. I expect this team to have a better record than they did last year.
We also forgot to mention, but we know Chris Boswell, best kicker in football, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he's the perfect Stiller. And he's beloved by all the fans. We all love Chris. But the punter, I mean, Waitman last year, one shank, one bad punt, really. Everything else, he was so consistent. That Steelers haven't had that in forever. And now, I mean, I guess he's going to be battling with Johnson, who we didn't really get to see other than the preseason. But the Steelers could have an even better situation at punter. We didn't even mention that because special teams matter.
that's true.
And I love some of the guys that might make this team predominantly as special teamers. And I think they potentially have a better punt returner in Gainwell. So special teams matters, and I think they've even improved there.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They have some really good options there if something doesn't work out, with the depth as well in this preseason. And we're going to see some good kicking. They even brought in a long snapper to challenge Kuntz. And so
Kuntz is a legend. He's a legend. I mean, this guy's going to be awful good. I mean, Christian Kuntz, that dude's a legend, guys.
Yeah, he definitely is. And he's a good podcaster too, if you haven't seen his stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that rounds it up for us. Shannon, do you have any final words for everybody?
Hey, that was fun. I needed this. It's nothing really sports going on right now, so I needed this. This was great, and I know we're 2 weeks away, so I'm super excited. Get this training camp going, and like I said, to all our birthday peoples, if I missed anybody, but happy birthday and God bless.
Happy birthday, yes. And yeah, it's only what, the 23rd, 24th, somewhere around there is when it's supposed to start.
It's close.
It's just around the corner. It's just around the corner, and we get some real football and Steeler news. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody that has tuned in. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring a notification bell. If you're listening to this on Apple or iTunes or wherever, give us a 5-star rating. Share this with your Steelers friends and family. Let's grow the community. That being said, Shannon, take us out, my man.